You think you know what we're going to talk about.
But unfortunately, I fell down a damn rabbit hole and I've not gotten out yet.
Knife bros.
I literally Googled Sebastian Stan hands.
But just when you least expect it, we changed the game.
I'm like, I wish I could find a good picture of just his hands.
It's probably because of, like, you know, his hands are, like, very clearly masculine.
At the end of the day, only one thing matters. We decide.
Well, we should make it a topic.
Well, yeah, because like, usually in astrology, they would partner up air signs with fire signs.
Three Fates Decide podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Three Fates Decide podcast. My name's Mary, and these are my two co-stars.
I'm Sam.
I'm Liz.
And today we're going to be talking talking about who we are, why we decided to do this podcast, and talking a little bit about what we do in real life as well. Who wants to start?
I'll start. Okay. I'll bite the bullet. All right. So, you know, I'm obviously, like I said, I'm Sam. About me, I live in the New York metro area, but not in New York itself. So, haha, you can guess where I am. I work in the medical field by day, and by night I am a social media stalker, a writer, and a now podcast co-host. Yeah. I am a podcast co-host.
Okay, my name's Mary, as you know. I'm a mom to a little girl. I live in Ohio. Not gonna say where, just the state of Ohio. Country.
Country.
I just graduated from nursing school. I'm trying to get my first nursing job. Just passed my test,
Woohoo!
my NCLEX. So yay, woohoo! Big party there. That's what I'm going to be doing during the day. At night, I'm also a social media stalker of things and people. Shouldn't really say stalker, but close enough. I also enjoy writing. Yeah, I also enjoy writing, reading other people's writing, especially Sam's. Love her stuff. And I'm a podcast co-host now.
Yay!
Liz?
Okay, so I guess my turn. Hi, I'm Liz. I live in New York City, which I am okay with admitting because there are over 8 million of us, so haha. I am hiding in plain sight. So, my day job is officially a data analyst, but I sometimes like to call it glorified data entry. And I will say that I work in the banking / financial industry. So my pay is pretty decent and keeps me covered. At night, I spend way too much time on Tumblr and on Discord lately. And I do read. I try to write, but that doesn't always work out. And I sometimes spend way too much time watching stuff on YouTube. A little too much. That kind of sums it up.
You know, Liz, as you were explaining your job, all I kept thinking is like you're like Chandler Bing in Friends.
Yes.
You know? He's a trans monster.
Honestly, when I actually try to explain to people at times like what my job actually is, you know, it can be a little bit like that because even I had no idea that my job existed until I went to the job interview and they started explaining in more detail what exactly my job is, and I'm like, okay. And then I still had to learn everything on the job anyway. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I am Chandler, apparently.
I don't know why. That's like what kind of popped into my head as you were explaining. I was like, I just feel like it's Chandler Bing from Friends, which is perfectly fine. He did very well. But it's funny though how like you either go to college or you have this plan as to what you want your job to be, and how it doesn't always work out that way. At least I know for me it didn't. I'm sure, Liz, you weren't imagining this was your dream job.
Oh, absolutely not.
And Mary,
I mean, like I said, right? Because, like I said, like I literally had no idea that my job, like what I do, was even a thing until I went to the job interviews. So,
right? Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I went to college originally for film production. I now run a medical practice. So, aha. And in between, I worked in marketing. So, I have a plethora of knowledge on random subjects.
I mean, I can sell you anything you want because I have done retail too many times to comfortably admit
Hey, you know what though?
over the years.
Retail is the backbone of the US. So,
It is. It is. And I'm telling you, those people that work retail,
mhm,
excuse me, I have the utmost respect for them, especially the ones that can do it without getting an attitude about it.
yeah. Yeah.
Because that's not me.
Well, and I feel bad when they get like attacked
Oh,
for no
yes.
reason. Like it annoys me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's who we are,
That's yes.
what we do. So, next question,
Right.
why did three women who have never met, by the way, they've never physically met each other.
No, we met each other through Tumblr, actually.
Yes. Good old Tumblr.
Tumblr
Yeah.
and then Discord.
And then Discord. Yep.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah. And to think we only really started talking in January?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think so.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I've been talking to Sam for a while, but
Right.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
But the
you're
three
the
of us
newest one.
together have only started talking since like January. And then all of a sudden decide, hey, why not? Let's start a podcast. I guess for me, the reason I wanted to do it is one, it sounded like fun, and two, I like to talk, and three, I need to vent somewhere. And damn it, a podcast sounded like a great idea to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, I've been wanting to do a podcast forever. I mean, you ask my friends and like all I ever do is like, let's do a podcast. And it's always like, well, what's it gonna be about? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to do a podcast. And thankfully I I found you guys and we all kind of came up with the same thing, like, well, we can kind of make it about anything. And thus the three fates decide. The best part about this whole podcast is each episode is going to be something different and we get to decide what we want to talk about, and there it is. So I'm really excited to do this with you guys.
Aw,
Same here.
yeah. I
And
mean,
especially talking dirt about people, but no.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
with
considering our opening is all about Sebastian's hands at this point.
let's not.
Don't start. It's going to take the whole hour.
No, we're not going to talk about it tonight, but I'm
No.
just saying
Yeah.
so obviously we can talk about weird
Anything.
stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess when it comes to podcasting, I did experiment like a few years ago with back in like the earlier, not quite the early days, but when it was like relatively a small field.
Mhm.
I had been exploring with podcasting a little bit with like the audio diary type of podcasts because I had listened to one before that I thought was really good. And at the time, I was really heavily into blogging as in like, the traditional blogging, which is like your own online diary that you are comfortable with sharing with people. So I kind of experimented that a little bit, but eventually real life kind of took over. So I had less time to do it. So I kind of stopped. But this was like more than 10 years ago. So yeah, this is my first foray back into it.
This is my first foray into podcasting, period.
Yep. Like I said,
I've
always
thought
wanted
about
to.
it before. I mean, yeah, I'm like you, Sam. I've thought about it. I've wanted to do it, but I've just never really. It's like I didn't want to do it by myself,
Mhm.
and never really had the time or the people to do it with. And then met you two, and it all kind of clicked. And we have to thank our one friend on another Discord channel that we're in that really pushed us to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys came in, you were like, so podcast? I'm like, oh, okay. Awesome. Yay.
Yeah.
No, what I love about podcasts though is really like, you know, how much they've developed obviously over the last couple of years. And you really could have a podcast about anything. I mean, there's podcasts that just tell like, mysteries or stories or whatever. You have, your gossips, you have there's and I only know this because I just watched the Britney Spears documentary, but these two girls had a podcast that literally took Britney Spears' social media posts and just dissected them, completely. And they actually are the ones that started the Free Britney movement, which is like crazy. But so it's like, podcasts have become huge and, it's really a great way to kind of get your voice heard out in the world about, anything. And, you can have fun with it at the same time. And so that's really why I wanted to do it. I don't know, want to contribute to society one way or another, whether it's about, bullshit or real important things.
Yeah. I mean, and I think our podcast will eventually become just kind of like a mixture of both.
Right.
To be honest, I mean, there's going to be a lot of fluff stuff in our podcast where we're just talking about the most random thing that comes into our heads at the time.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, we may have those days where something comes up that we're like, hey, this is something we should really maybe talk about, help. Because I kind of want to be able to help other people go through things that we may be going through as three old. I'm not saying that we're old adults, but we're older adults. Whereas instead of being our young 20s and like teen people,
Yeah.
We've all gone through college, we've all graduated college or something of the sort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
no, absolutely. No, I'm 100% with you. Again, like contributing to society, whether it's via entertainment or, talking about something that either one of us has gone through and maybe someone else is going through it right now. And, they listen to it and it helps them, kind of through that. And, that's definitely, something that I would love to hear about, down the line, like, oh, I listened to your podcast. And when you guys talked about this, like, it really helped me get through, this that I was going through. Like, I think I would just feel so happy. Like,
yeah, I think we all would. We all would.
Yeah.
Yeah. You hear celebrities talk about that all the time.
I mean, given like how we're still experiencing a global pandemic and so many of us are at home right now, it- I would like to think that even if it's not just our show, but like any other podcast, if it somehow makes you feel connected to other people simply for the fact that whatever the subject matter is, for the podcast is, makes you feel like I'm not alone because somebody else is interested in the same thing, then that's what matters, right? So
Right.
yeah.
Definitely. definitely. I think especially now in the times that we are living, because we've had a lot of upheaval in the United States with not only with the pandemic, but the elections, which we're really not going to get into, or I don't really want to get into, no matter what you feel about it, one way or the other. It is what it is, and it's hopefully, and we all have to make the best of it, and hopefully things will turn out well. And but things like that is like other people are probably thinking, I feel so alone in all this.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we can reach out and touch somebody and be like, man, okay, these girls are a little nuts, they're a little crazy, but they make me feel like I'm not alone in the world, because you're not alone.
Nope. No,
There's
you're
always somebody there to talk to or listen to or something.
yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, with the pandemic, you see, and on Tumblr you see it all the time, people saying how, and just myself, like how difficult times were, and mental health has really become a subject. A lot of people have had a lot of depression or anxiety or whatever from having to stay home and not being able to see family or friends or do anything, and just feeling very stuck. And if you are already suffering with mental health, it's taking like a huge thing, which is actually why I started writing on Tumblr. Was my anxiety just kind of got out of control, and I needed something to just let it out. And you know, through that, I mean, look at what's happened, in the last several months. I've now met people online through Tumblr, and now are friends, and now we're, doing this podcast where we get to talk to each other and, about this, that, or the other thing. So, and obviously that's just me, but it just kind of shows like, even in the worst of times, you can always find a light somewhere. You're never going to be alone in the dark. Like you can always, it may not seem like it at the time, but if you just
Yeah.
keep plugging on, you'll find it. You'll definitely find it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's
Because I mean, over the years, I've suffered with social anxiety. It doesn't seem like it, but in social situations, when I'm especially in public, I'm not the most comfortable. Especially if it's people I don't know, I'm like, yeah. I get very introverted into myself, and I don't like to talk or do anything like that. But once I get to know you, then I never shut up usually. And you poor ladies have found that out.
Mary, you and I are like the same person, so it's okay.
See, this is why we get along so well. And then we have Liz over here, who is the more dignified, refined one of us
Oh
all.
God.
And she keeps us and she's the one that keeps us from going too crazy.
I suppose somebody has to do it.
Or she just laughs at us, one of the two.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in any kind of group, there has to be someone who is relatively more serious
I was gonna say
than everybody
sane,
else.
but
Yeah, I was like, same.
Well,
I
I
wasn't
wasn't
really
gonna
gonna
say
say
that.
serious, because I don't really see you as being that serious. You're just the more sane of the three of us, that's all.
I don't know. I sometimes think I'm a little too serious, but anyway.
Not after you hang out with me and Sam, you're not.
and you come up with some great ideas.
Oh no.
I like that.
fear-
Oh no.
I always fear that I'm gonna turn into a bad idea bear. I mean, ever since I saw Avenue Q and I found out what a bad idea bear, I was like, oh my God. Don't tell me I'm gonna turn into one of those.
Eh,
Well, we love you anyway. And we love your bad ideas, which are never bad ideas. They're always good ideas.
I
truth.
don't know. I can't help it. I just refer to them as being bad. I keep referring to myself as like a bad idea bear because I end up saying something that like
It
I
sparked
wasn't
someone.
necessarily serious about, being serious
Uh-huh.
about, and then suddenly it turned out it was actually a good idea to somebody else, and I'm like, what did I just say?
You start the spark, and then someone else takes the flame, and you just sit there and go, "Damn it! I didn't mean to
Well, that's
start
kind
that
of
fire."
yeah, that's kind of what happened with this podcast.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Liz and
'Cause-
I, when we started talking, I'm gonna guess it was what, November, Liz? Maybe even before that?
Yeah. Yeah, I kinda remember it was around
It
it
was
was
b
in November.
it was like
Yeah.
around, yeah, before before Thanksgiving when some crap went down that we'll talk about on a later episode. But,
Oh,
Yeah.
but, you know, we had started talking about doing, like, a podcast or whatever, and then we just couldn't think of what to talk about, and then, you know, it kind of fell, you know, we were both just really busy with other things and
right.
stuff like that, and then when you guys came back to me and was like, "Hey, podcast," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm in. Let's go."
Yeah, and yeah, because Liz had mentioned it in their other Discord, and then the other friend that we had, she's like, "Man, you guys really should do that. I would listen to you guys talk." And then I'm like, "Well, then let's do it." So basically, it's like Liz had the idea, someone kind of fanned the flames, and then I just took it and ran with it.
There you go. Fan that flame.
And
Yeah.
then me and Sam have just basically said we're doing this, and Liz has to come along for the ride.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I was kinda inclined toward it, from a while back, but it's like actually executing it was like, how? How? How?
And we're
Well,
figuring it out now, so here we go.
we are.
Yep.
Here we
I
go.
mean, this one's gonna probably be a little bit rough, but we got this.
Like I said, first episodes are always, you know, because you want to do that introductory thing and, you know, but obviously we want to catch attention, but at the same time not go into a million different conversations. Yeah, because we want to make sure we have topics to talk about later on in other
Yeah, 'cause if we just
episodes.
talked about everything tonight, there was like there's nothing else to talk about. Well,
and we're done. Thanks for listening to the show.
yeah, it was all of one episode. But I think between the three of us, we will have plenty to talk about.
Oh, absolutely. And with the way things are going in the world, we'll always have something to
Yes.
talk about. Now, and as Mary kind of mentioned, you know, all three of us live in the US. Obviously, the US has been dealing with a lot of shit and politically, and we are going to definitely steer away from the political
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah, 'cause
I
I
think that's
mean,
just safety.
yeah,
Unless something crazy happens, then obviously we'll talk about it. But I think
right.
it's just safer to stay away from religion and politics.
Definitely. Like a lot of the controversial topics that can start fights, we don't really want to get into. I mean, not that they're not important topics to talk about, they are, but that's not necessarily what the whole
Podcast is
tone of
about.
our broadcast of our podcast is about.
Oh yeah,
We kind of want to keep it more. We want to keep it more on the lighter side of serious.
right. Exactly.
So,
Oh yeah, and I mean, the things that we just talk about on a daily basis are gonna floor people, between obviously celebrity gossip to astrology.
books,
Yeah.
movies. I mean, you name it. We've probably talked about it, or we will talk about it. Like I said, I'll probably be bitching about my kid a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, love her to death, but good Lord. Don't have kids, folks. That's all I gotta say is don't have kids. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking on that one too. If you want kids, have them. If you don't, then don't.
Yeah.
You do you, boo.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Wise words. No, I
Yep.
mean, you know, again, we're going to talk about that kind of stuff. I mean, I could see, honestly, the sky's the limit with the topics that we could talk about, except for the controversial, obviously.
Yeah.
And I, down the line, and once we know, get everything all set up for everyone, we're gonna allow our listeners to throw in some suggestions on what you wish for us to talk about.
Yes.
I'm excited about that.
I am too, because that'll be fun to see what our listeners to come up with and be like, hey, I'd love for you guys to talk about this topic or
Mhm.
this topic or this or that. So yeah. It's just gonna be fun.
Yeah, I
yeah.
just like that we're not gonna be stuck on like one thing
Right.
the entire time.
I think being that we're gonna be more flexible, I think we'll be able to draw in a larger crowd because I mean, maybe somebody doesn't like the topic we're talking about this week, but they might like the topic we're talking about next week. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you don't have to listen to us every single week if you don't want to. I mean, we would love for you to, though.
We're really nice
Want
people.
y'all yeah, we really want you to listen to us like every week, but hey, can't force it.
Nope.
I do have like kind of a general question that would be kind of fun to talk about.
Okay.
Okay, so we've been dealing with this pandemic and we haven't been able to do stuff that we would normally love to do, like, outdoorsy stuff. So,
hmm
what do you miss the most that you haven't done in like the last year?
Oh,
I mean, I guess it's more of just not the freedom of being able to do what I want, like going out to a bar and, drinking with a bunch of people and not having to worry that, I have to be out by 10 o'clock or, that there's too many people in the bar or, like I miss the not being nervous, and just being free.
I would say probably sitting down in a restaurant and actually having a meal and not having to get carry out.
Mm.
Yeah, I
It's
miss that too.
probably the thing I missed the most, and being able to hang out with my friends
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
because I haven't seen my friends in almost a year now.
It's crazy. It's been almost a year since everything shut down. The world shut down.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much agree with what you guys were saying. Like, I miss being able to go out, like, hypothetically speaking, go out wherever I want, whenever I want, and
And
not
not having to wear a mask.
yeah.
Fresh
Although
air.
here's the funny thing though.
That's fair.
Well, not haha funny, but it's more like one of those like, "Oh, this is a funny coincidence," kind of funny, but I've actually been to Asia, a few times, and even 10 years ago, which was when, like, was the first time I'd been to Asia in a very, very long time, I would notice that the mask wearing thing was very common. Like, I went to Hong Kong, and when I would step into any of the subway stations, like, I would see, like, at least a quarter of the people, maybe a third of the people in the stations wearing the surgical masks, and they even have a separate garbage can that's labeled, like, biohazard, like, the way you would see in the hospital, like, a
Mhm.
special trash can
Yeah.
for, like, gloves and masks and things like that because they are technically biohazard garbage, right? So, I thought it was
Depends on what's on them.
fascinating. Hmm?
So it depends on what's on them.
Right, but, in theory, that's kinda like
Right.
what it's for.
Mhm.
So I thought it was really fascinating that it was a very common thing over there, and in the back of my mind, I always thought, "Huh, this would actually be handy to do in flu season when I'm taking the subway to work and I'm gonna be sharing the train with, like, thousands of other people, and I have no idea who has the flu germ." So I was always thinking in the back of my mind, like maybe during my commute, I could wear a mask and try to avoid catching the flu. But the problem was that I couldn't figure out where to buy masks because those were not a common thing over here, you
Mhm.
know.
Right.
So, but well, that's not the problem now, is it?
Yeah, no, now you can
No,
get it
definitely
at
not now.
any store.
Yeah,
Your local
basically.
grocery store has
The
masks.
only thing you can't get in a store now are gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they said
yeah.
the gloves don't do much anyway, apparently. Just wash
No,
your
but when
hands.
I dye my hair, it's nice to have a pair of gloves
Yes.
that actually fit my hands instead of those crappy ones that come with the hair dye.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. But yeah, no, I remember Liz, like, always seeing, I've never been to Asia or anything like that, but I always knew that they were very big into the masks, especially, crowded areas or airplanes or,
Mhm.
things like that. And in my head, like, unfortunately, people make fun of it, even like, when I go into New York, even before the pandemic, a lot of Asian people would wear masks because it's very overcrowded, obviously, in New York City and,
Mhm.
whatever.
Right.
But at the end of, like, when you think about it, was smart. This is why, like, you know, there wasn't as high of a, illness, I guess, over there. So, really Asia kind of had it had it had it right, obviously.
Right.
And then now with the pandemic, it just now everyone's doing it. But I really just want to know, like, will we ever get to a point that we don't wear masks
Well,
anymore?
here's the right. Well, here's the funny thing. So, one of the weird habits I kind of picked up during the pandemic was like I was saying earlier, like I spend too much time watching YouTube videos. And one of the videos I remembered watching was actually discussing about the 1918 flu pandemic. And one of the interesting side notes that they mentioned was that the mask wearing thing in Asia, part now this is not the only reason, because like there is actually some air pollution, which is another reason why you would wear the mask. Because like if you happen to live in a city or a part of your country where you are experiencing a lot of air pollution, you would wear the mask anyway. But from what I understand, in some parts of Asia, especially in Japan, a big reason why they wear masks is because it's a habit that the society developed because of the flu pandemic when, millions of people were getting infected and people were dying left and right. And one of the few reasonably reliable tools that people had access to try to prevent catching it was to wear a mask and try to not be too close to other people you don't know. So that's where some of that came from, actually. So 100 years later, it turns out that habit worked out pretty well. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I don't have a problem wearing masks. I mean, it's would be nice to not have to. Obviously, it's easier to breathe fresh air without it, but I mean, it's not uh, it's not a total inconvenience.
It's not a detriment to your health,
Right.
like some people wanna claim that it is, but it's really not.
yeah, I mean, every time I hear people say that, like, "Oh, I can't breathe wearing this thing." Well, yeah, why don't you tell all the doctors
Right. The
and nurses?
surgeons who do like 14-hour surgeries and wear a
Yeah, why
mask
don't
with
you
no
tell them?
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you tell them that you have a problem breathing with a mask on.
Well, and the funny
You
thing
go tell them that.
is that like if you have tuberculosis, which is a breathing disease,
Mhm.
you wear a
Yes.
mask. They have
Yeah.
tuberculosis patients wear masks because it's so contagious.
Mhm.
And if they can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And
Sorry to
when we
burst your
go
bubble.
into and when we go into patients' rooms, we that have, like, a, airborne droplet precaution,
Mm-hmm.
you're wearing a special mask called an N95
Mm-hmm.
respirator. And I mean, that sucker is airtight. I mean, it's fitted to your face to make sure you cannot breathe anything in that air that will get into your respiratory tract.
Yep.
Yeah, and those things are tight and they're uncomfortable because I've had to wear it. And these poor people that are, because that's what doctors and nurses especially are wearing in hospitals now with this pandemic. They're wearing an N95 for 12 hours or more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad though, Mary, that you are basically straight out saying that, look, this is what medical people have to deal with. This is what is,
Mhm.
as far as we know, factually what we should be doing and how things should be done. I mean, that, why
Yeah.
why are people making such a big deal out of this? I mean,
Right.
nobody likes the inconvenience because it is admittedly inconvenient, but the alternative that's way more inconvenient is that you get extremely sick
And you're on a
you
ventilator.
and you are on a ventilator
Then you
and
really
you have
can't breathe.
yeah,
Oh.
and yeah. So
Yeah.
there are things that are way more inconvenient than wearing
Yeah.
a stupid mask. So
Right.
And I'll
come
put
on.
it to you this way. I have asthma. I've had asthma for years. And you're right. Wearing a mask is not the greatest thing in the world. I admit that sometimes I do find it a little harder to catch my breath. But you know what? Every time I leave my house and I go somewhere other than my car, I have a mask on. Doesn't mean I like it,
Right.
but I wear that mask because I'm protecting 3 people in my home. I'm protecting myself and I'm protecting everybody around me because they don't know that maybe I have COVID and I don't
Mhm.
know that I've got it,
Preach.
you know?
Yeah.
So
No.
you're right. It sucks. I hate having to wear a mask. But guess what? I do it.
Yeah. Well, right, exactly. And I think there's like a misconception that like people who are anti-mask feel that people who are pro-mask, like wearing them. I hate having to wear a mask, but
Yeah.
like you, Mary, like I have people in my home that I need to take care of and make sure that they don't get, especially working in the health field and being with people all day every day. I need to make sure that I'm not bringing things home. I'm making sure that I'm not spreading anything to other people who I, can spread it to someone else or just get sick themselves. And,
Yeah.
I'm protecting myself at the same time. So, it's just common courtesy. As I said, there, you have stores that say no shoes, no shirt, no service. Well, just add a mask onto that. So if you are going to give a store a hard time about wearing a mask, consider it part of clothing. They say no mask, you can't enter. Don't cause an uproar saying your rights are being, but you're putting your rights again above everyone else's who wants to not get sick or get people in their homes sick. I mean, I can only say like
Yeah.
I lost 2 people to this pandemic, and the only thing I wish for is for it to just be done and for people to just do what they need to do and let's get it over with, because there's countries in this world
Right.
who did what they had to do and now they're living life again. And
Yeah.
we're not.
And I mean, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be upset over having to wear a mask because
Right.
hell, most people are upset about wearing a
Oh,
mask.
absolutely.
Nobody wants to wear the
No.
mask. I mean, really, nobody wants to wear the mask. But the majority of people in this country, we love our freedoms, but at the same time, we understand why this quote unquote freedom was taken away from us because we're idiots.
But I am proud, I swear. I swear I'm proud.
Yeah, same. I'm proud. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else
Well,
for the most part.
Tropical
For
island
the
might
most
not be bad. Tropical island not within the hurricane zone would be lovely.
I know.
Yeah.
Curacao, Bonaire, great places to go. Just saying.
I mean, I might consider Australia if
Mm.
everything there wasn't giant and wanted to kill me.
Oh yeah, the
And
bugs.
and the forest fires.
True.
Yeah. But Chris Hemsworth,
Hemsworth brothers.
true. Because there's 3 of them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's the reason why. Hugh Jackman. Though he's living in New York
Oh,
right now. I follow him on Instagram, and during like the snow or whatever, he's outside like happy as anything. He's like, "Oh, guy from Australia, this is heaven." Meanwhile, I'm like, "Shut up, Hugh. This is terrible. We
right?
don't want
Like,
snow."
no, we want snow to go away. Snow can go away now.
Yes, I'm over it. It's done. I can't anymore.
Yeah. Because I mean, we're supposed to be getting like another 1 to 3 inches tomorrow,
Mm.
or no, tonight, and then like another 3 to 5 inches tomorrow. I'm
Ooh.
like, okay, Mother Nature,
Oh.
I understand that you are
Oh,
PMSing.
God. Doesn't that mean it's heading our way next?
They're saying we might get a
Probably.
little bit more on Monday, but then next week we're supposed to get into like close to the 50s.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. Melt this white stuff. This crap.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of want to get rid of the ice that's outside right now.
Yeah, that's the worst
Oh,
part.
God.
I don't mind the fluffy
can live-
snow.
I can live with this. I can live with the white crap. It's the ice on top of the white crap that I don't like.
Oh my God. When I went to do the grocery shopping earlier today, there are people on the block that are, I don't know if they were just lazy or what the deal was, but at least a couple of the houses, like their part of the sidewalk was pretty icy. So I had to walk in the street when I was like near their houses and then walk back on the sidewalk to avoid the ice. So that way I don't like slip and fall on my butt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very frustrating every year. There's always that 1 or 2 houses that do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember when I lived in an apartment complex, and like my biggest pet peeve is when you would shovel out your car and make sure your parking spot was all nice and clean, and I would leave and go to work, and then I would come back and the car that was next to me is now on my spot, and their spot is all iced up, and they never shoveled out. They just backed out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you know what? You lazy, selfish. I curse a lot, so I'm trying not to. Trying to be somewhat PG.
Same. But I guarantee you this. We're eventually just gonna let the F-bomb fly.
Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. So if you're under 18, sorry. Oh, you probably curse just as much as we do. Who we kidding? Kids don't care.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're under 16, maybe you shouldn't listen to our podcast, but at the same time, we can't really stop you.
Yes. We just
So
put a
this is like a
disclaimer.
16. This disclaimer is this is a TV 16 podcast at least.
Yes.
I mean, we got to go up above what the new Marvel TV show is going to be, which is a TV 14 at this point rating.
Yeah. Well, at first, didn't they rate it like TVR or whatever?
Yeah, but now it's like TV 14. I think was the final rating for it.
Mm.
But that's a whole other podcast. Oh my god!
That's,
You know that's going to
another
be
episode.
basically like for like 6 episodes is going to be nothing but us dissecting each episode.
Yes. Well, yeah, and I mean honestly, even
Definitely
like
see
our
it.
next episode, we can dissect WandaVision because that's coming toward its end. 2 more episodes. So.
Oh, I know.
Oh man,
Yay.
there's so many. There's like there have been fan theories for months, and some of them are actually coming to fruition.
Yes. Did you watch the yesterday's episode?
Yeah.
Because like, can I just tell you, when you were typing all that stuff on our other Discord about like what people are saying, and I'm like, oh my god. She's like literally typing everything that's like happening right now.
Well, because the thing was like ever since they started releasing, bits and pieces of like who is in the show and like who some of the characters are, there were already
Mhm.
people speculating because it's pretty much understood that most of the Marvel properties, especially the stuff related to the movies, are adaptations of some sort from the comics. So it's kind of a
Mhm.
matter of which storyline do people think is going to be the one they're using,
Mhm.
especially in relation to which particular storylines or particular comic book runs are like the most famous ones related to certain characters. So I think that's why a lot of the fan theories for WandaVision was related to spoiler alert, um, were related to the House of M and I think it's called Avengers Disassembled and the stuff with like Mephisto and Agatha
Yeah.
Harkness and all that stuff. That so I was
Right.
literally reading all these fan theories for months where like people were making pretty good
Mhm.
cases as to what they think was going to happen,
Yeah.
and so far some of them are happening.
Yeah. Well, I know Elizabeth Olsen even said like 6 or 7 years ago now, she's like, she would love to have seen, this was even way before WandaVision was even a thing, that she would love to see them do the House of M storyline and give uh Wanda fake children. And by God, 6 friggin' years later, here it is. It's like
Right? Because
she even
yeah,
called it. She's like, they would never do this, but that's exactly what they've done. I
right,
mean,
and yeah, I mean it. I think what really made the theorizers really excited was when they announced more info on the Doctor Strange movie. Like just the fact that they said that some of these Marvel shows, especially WandaVision and I think the Loki series, are going to be,
mhm,
I guess, lead-ins slash tie-ins to Doctor Strange. And then the fact that the Doctor Strange movie is supposed to be called, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of
the multiverse
Madness.
of madness. Yes.
Yeah, it just started really convincing a lot of people that this is probably what they're doing, which is the whole, Mephisto thing,
Right.
and then maybe they'll have Wanda, like, go crazy by the end of it, and that's gonna end up triggering more craziness in the magical aspects of Marvel, which, to be fair, is something that has
Right.
never really been explored much until now, other than, with the
Yeah.
Doctor Strange movie.
Um, right. And I think another tie-in that they're gonna figure out is with Evan Peters' character, Quicksilver, his version of Pietro.
Right.
Um, I could since we've discovered Agatha is the one that's pulling all the strings, and she's the one that brought him here. I think they're gonna try to tie it back to she pulled him from a different universe, an alternate reality. Then
Right.
and that's how they're gonna tie in like the mutant thing maybe, because Wanda's like, that's not your uncle, that's not my brother.
Right, because okay, now I had to, like
That was one of the things I saw, and I read this today, actually, I think.
right, I had to look this up just to verify, like, some earlier research I did looking into this sort of thing,
Mhm.
but a big thing that came up multiple times in the show was references to the Nexus, and the Nexus is a thing in the comics, which is, the Nexus is a cross-dimensional gateway which provides a pathway to any and all possible realities. This includes realities
Mhm.
between realities.
And
So
they had the Nexus on this last episode of WandaVision, the pill.
right. And
I was like, I knew the Nexus had something to do with it. I just couldn't remember where it was from.
right. Well, I just brought that up because just in
Yeah.
case any listeners are not super familiar with the comics. Now, I admittedly do not read the comics. I had to look this up online, but because of this research, I am somewhat familiar with the comics. So for anybody listening to this is just kind of a rough explanation of what it is. But yes, it is called, the official name is the Nexus of All Realities. So that's why it's starting to make sense why they wanted to use this as the storyline for WandaVision. Because if this is meant to be a tie-in to Doctor Strange, then it could be that they're going to do their adaptation of the Mephisto storyline, and maybe either Agatha or maybe Wanda potentially going crazy is
Mm-hmm.
going to cause a bigger rip and into the Nexus or whatever, and cause all sorts of craziness to happen, which leads up to Doctor Strange. That's a possibility.
Yeah, and it's a very good possibility. I do think that between WandaVision and these last couple episodes, I still think I still say the whole Mephisto storyline, and we're going to meet Mephisto before the end of this, within the next 2 episodes. We have, because what happened to the twins? Where are the twins? That's what I want to know.
Right, because just the concept of Wanda and Vision having kids just logically just does not make any sense. I mean, he's a robot. How is that
Mhm.
even possible?
Right.
Because in the comics, Wanda basically uses magic to
To get
create,
pregnant. Yeah.
right, to get pregnant. So there's nothing particularly biological
About
about
the
it.
Yeah,
Right, about it.
and then with Agatha saying that and then Agatha basically erasing the twins from Wanda's memory, because she said that, because to Agatha, she was convinced that each twin held pieces of Mephisto's soul. And she was like, well, we're just basically going to get rid of these kids and bring Mephisto back, or attempt to. And that made Wanda go nuts.
Right, because it turned out that the magical energy Wanda supposedly ended up, I guess, picking up, metaphorically speaking, she picked up some kind of magical energy and used that to create the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And in the comics, this energy turned out to be pieces of I think, I forget, was it Mephisto or what? Was it somebody else? But anyway,
No, it was part of if I remember reading, because I just read it this morning because I was trying to, do a little bit of research and stuff. Um, I could be wrong on this one. I may have to look it up again. Um, it was leftover magic from, I want to say it was from Agatha, because Agatha had gone. She was Wanda's mentor at one point
right, I remember I heard about that in the comics. Yeah.
in the comics. She was Wanda's mentor at one point in the comics, and then something happened. Don't remember what, but something happened, and then I just want to say it was. I'm gonna have to look it up again because I don't want to say it and be wrong.
Right. But yeah, so the fact that these kids were, in essence, pieces of a super interdimensional demon
Mm-hmm.
means that the kids technically never really existed, and they get taken away and, they're in essence killed.
Right,
That kind of made wanna go off the deep end a bit.
right. That's why
And
I'm looking it up again.
right, and then through a slightly meandering way,
Mhm.
this particular story in the comics is what led up to House of M, and then the decimation, which, due to the way the MCU is structured, they can't quite do exactly House of M and decimation. I mean, if they attempt to do it, it would have to be some kind of modified loose adaptation, because the whole House of M and decimation storyline is primarily about mutants, which technically do not exist yet, in the MCU. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it's part of the reason why Civil War and the Sokovia Accords were written the way they were, because the
Right.
Sokovia Accords were essentially the MCU version of, I think it was called the Enhanced or the Superhuman Registration Act or something like that, where it covered not only the mutants, but it also covered any other enhanced people, basically like all the other superheroes that are not mutants.
Right.
And
But
technically, the villains that are also enhanced in some way are, supposed to be under the law, but again, because they are villains and they are criminals, they don't care. They're
right.
they're gonna do whatever the heck they want, because they were doing whatever the heck they want before, so any new law is not gonna stop them. So, you know
Okay, here we go. I figured I got it now. What happened?
Okay.
How for the um Agatha Harkness, how she fits into all this. Um she had created a new Salem in Colorado. She had a child, Nicholas Scratch. His children were known as the Salem 7, who took over the New Salem community. They they captured Agatha and killed her. And then another battle between the Salem 7 and Wanda, or the Scarlet Witch, ensued, and then Wanda captured some of the energy of what happened, and that's how she became pregnant with her children.
Honestly, like I'm excited for all. I just think the lineup for Marvel in the new phase, um I'm just so excited for everything. Like there's just so, like, I just think it's going to be so good, because after Endgame, everyone's like, you can't help but worry what was going to happen, how they were going to go on without, like the RDJs or Chris, or who knows what's going to happen with Scarlet after the uh Black
Black
Widow
Widow.
movie, like, is she gonna
Well,
continue as Black Widow even though her character technically died in Endgame, or, like, what's gonna happen with that? So,
I think with the Black Widow is they're going to pass the mantle on to
Yelena.
Yelena, Yelena or whatever.
Yelena, yeah.
Kind of like what they're going to do with Hawkeye, because Hawkeye's is getting a TV show as well.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one too.
I know. And the one besides the Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I cannot wait to start seeing, is I'm most excited for Loki, because I love the character. I've loved his character from the beginning, but unfortunately, I don't understand why they didn't continue on with the fact that he has frost giant powers.
Yeah. Maybe they'll go into it
I
though
mean,
in his series.
I hope so, because I mean, it's like they mentioned it in the first movie and it was never mentioned again. It was like, the hell? It's like the dude is basically the rightful king of Jotunheim.
You know what? My theory is that it's because of the fact that they have not had consistent uh director and writing team working on the Thor movies. So that may be why there's certain elements of the earlier movies that got dropped. Like exactly like you were saying, how come they didn't have Loki use some of his frost giant powers? Now that he realizes he's a frost giant, like why isn't he like exploring any of those powers or using them more? So okay, back on topic now. So I guess at this point we just have to wait, for the next episode just to see
Right.
what we're actually gonna get because, you know, they gotta tie this up somewhat, somehow.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise it's just going to be like this big cliffhanger, and we're going to be going, well, but we're not going to find out what happens until Doctor Strange comes out, and Doctor Strange isn't coming out till what, next year?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because I mean, has it even? I don't even think it's started
Well,
filming yet, has it?
actually, it did, but then they had to
Okay.
shut down because of the spike
COVID.
back in January.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wiki page for it.
Okay.
Filming began in November, but was put on hold in January due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This is interesting. Shooting will also occur in New York City, Los Angeles, and Vancouver.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense that they would have to do some filming here in New York because one of the settings is the New York Sanctum.
Right. Right.
So they would have to film some establishing
Mm-hmm.
scenes here at some point. And I'm assuming for Vancouver, they may be using, well, the typical reason why anybody shoots anything in Vancouver is because they can use Vancouver as a double for another location altogether,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I mean, for
Yeah.
goodness sakes, they've filmed stuff that's set in New York and Vancouver,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, they filmed a lot of the Washington D.C. stuff in Cleveland, Ohio.
Right. Right. I mean, I would imagine some of the security needed, some of the security clearance you would need to like film certain things in DC would be a nightmare to deal with.
Well, that and the fact that it's a much more populous area than Cleveland, so
Yeah.
Cleveland's more willing to let them shut down parts of the city for them to film. I mean, hell, they shut down 3 miles of the damn freeway so they could film the bridge fight scene in Captain America: Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Cleveland's like, yeah, sure, you can shut down 3 miles of our freeway. We don't care. Like, I really wish I'd known that because I'm like 3 hours from Cleveland.
Well, like what is it? The Dark Knight. They filmed that in Chicago.
Yeah, which I mean, I guess, which I thought was kind of funny that they did that because I know there was that one scene in Dark Knight Rises where they definitely used the financial district.
Oh yeah, they were on Wall Street.
Yeah. I mean, you can clearly recognize. I mean, I will admit, before the pandemic started, my office is in what is in the financial district, and sometimes when I go on my like lunchtime walks, I would walk past the stock exchange. So it is in my neighborhood, and I recognize exactly which building they used when Bane and his gang came out of the Gotham Stock Exchange.
Yep.
To do their big fight scene.
It's so funny watching that movie and seeing, the Freedom Tower and how tiny it was, because they were building it compared to what it is now. But yeah, no, I mean that's the thing I love about like movies though. But I always think like with the actors, how exhausting it must be that like for 2 or 3 scenes they'll travel to a different country, shoot whatever they need to, and then fly to somewhere else to go shoot something. And it's like, I can't even imagine how exhausting that must be.
I know, right? Well, just think for Falcon and Winter Soldier, they had to go to Prague.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I know for like Civil War, they actually went to Germany.
Yeah. They filmed what, the airport and I think Siberia, both in Germany.
Something like that.
I know the airport scene was done in a German airport.
Hmm
I don't remember which one. I read it and I don't remember which one because I don't speak German.
Well, why not?
Unfortunately, I didn't take German in school. I took Spanish and I don't remember any of it other than I can count to 10.
There you go.
But all I can do, I can count to 10 in Spanish.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting stuff,
But
the
yeah.
actual filmmaking process. I mean, I'm one of those like really nerdy people who loves watching those things on like the DVDs.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm with you. Behind the scenes stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that stuff. In fact, I will intentionally go out of my way to buy like assuming that a TV show or a movie that I like had like different editions, I will sometimes intentionally go out of my way to buy particular editions because they have those bonus features on there that I want to watch. That's
Mhm.
how much of a nerd I am. I mean, I totally did that with
Yeah.
like with Game of Thrones, except for the final season.
That the final season doesn't exist. I don't care what you say, it does not exist. Damn it, where's the what is it, the time stone that we need to go back and rewind time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need the time stone.
I'll
Liz,
probably
you're in New York, go get it.
Yep. That would have probably fixed a whole bunch of things. So
We
many
could
things.
we could have taken that time stone. Oh man, can you imagine if I take it? It's a good thing it doesn't really exist because if I had any type of control of that time stone, yeah, there'd be so many more alternate realities right now.
Just to prove how nerdy I am, I could get into like TED Talk like rambles about. I mean, I don't consider I am in no way, shape, or form an expert on sci-fi or anything like that. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm not a diehard sci-fi fan compared to other people I know who are really into sci-fi, but oh my god, I could get into it like I could probably get into a TED Talk about like time travel stories and all that stuff because one of the few sci-fi tropes, if you will, that I honestly love a lot is the time travel stuff.
Mhm.
That and the alternate universe stuff.
But yeah, let's just say there would be a lot more alternate realities right now if I had control of the time stone. I mean, we would technically all be living in our in the perfect alternate reality for each one of us, though. I would be nice, and I'd like give you guys what you wanted,
Aw, thanks.
at least in one reality. So I mean, the rest of the realities would be kind of shitty, but it's okay.
Well,
We'll be living in the alternate reality where everything's great.
I mean, with Endgame, it's like I just want to sigh every time I think about time travel in that movie.
what's funny is like even like the characters in the movie were like, wait a minute, but every movie told us that time travel's like this.
Yeah. And they're like they're just basically just naming all these movies off and it's like, yeah, all of these say time travel is this way and you're saying time travel is not? The hell?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the way they wrote time travel in Endgame was not good. Not good.
No.
I mean, I'm sorry to anybody who is like, Endgame was great. It was perfect. I mean, when it came to the time travel stuff, hey, this girl who loves time travel stories is more than happy to tell you, no, it was not good. I'm sorry. It just wasn't.
You don't get better time travel than Back to the Future.
That is true. That's the end all be all time travel movie.
I mean, it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
and damn it, if you don't have a DeLorean, then it's just not time travel.
Well, I mean, Hot Tub Time Machine was a good movie without the DeLorean. They just had,
A hot tub.
a hot tub and a energy drink. and that's
I
all they
don't
needed.
remember.
We'll definitely get into that
Yes.
in another show.
That's another episode.
Yeah. So as I'm sure everyone listening can understand, we do tend to go off and lead ourselves down a road to different topics. The goal
We
is
go down
to try and not go into too many topics in one episode.
Yeah, but we tend to go down rabbit holes and just not get ourselves out of them.
Yeah. Yep. So if you're brave enough to join us on our rabbit hole travels.
Yeah, we're kind of like Alice in Wonderland when it comes to that. It's like we see the rabbit hole and we just dive down head first.
Because sometimes like the best conversations are just the conversations that just happen and are not like pre-planned too much, at least.
Right.
Well, right, and that's what I think is going to be so awesome about ours is that we're kind of, obviously we know what we want to talk about, but if we go off into, tangents as long as it's not crazy, I think number one, it's more real and it's more enjoyable
Right.
because what conversation is strictly one topic unless you're like in school.
And I think that's why most people don't like school because they get bored.
Yes. Anything else we want to add to our first show?
Thanks for listening, everyone. Catch us next time.
And see what we're going to talk about.
Because the three fates decide.